10 elite agencies. Most of them are watching each other right now. Some of them are probably watching you. Can you imagine being one of those elite operatives? Well, let me show you what that'd be like. Disclaimer: the following information is highly sensitive. It may or may not be the full truth, but neither is anything these agencies tell their own governments. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. You're in a cafe in Ankara, already there for when your target arrives for a meeting with you. You've been there for 40 minutes, reading a newspaper, watching the door. Because you are a CIA case officer. Not an analyst, not a tech specialist, but the person whose entire job is to sit across from foreign nationals and convince them to betray their country. You didn't come straight here. Nobody does. You spent years rotating through cover positions: attaché, contractor, trade consultant, building personality so layered that sometimes you have to remind yourself which name is on your hotel receipt. The firm trained you: surveillance detection, asset recruitment, the specific body language of someone who's about to say yes. The farm is what CIA officers call their training facility in Virginia. You don't talk about it by its real name. Your target today spent 11 years in his country's defense ministry and has access to procurement records, weapons transfers, and names. He doesn't know he's being recruited. He thinks this is a business lunch. You spend the first 45 minutes talking about his daughter's university applications. You ask the right questions. You listen in a way most people never do. By the time the food arrives, he trusts you more than he trusts most people he's known for years. That's not an accident. That's tradecraft. Your pitch comes quietly. It's just a suggestion, a door you leave open. You watch his eyes as he realizes what might be possible. He didn't say yes today. That's fine. You've done this before. Yes always comes later. It comes after he's thought about it for 3 weeks and convinced himself it was his idea. You pick up the check. You leave separately. Nobody in that cafe knew what just happened. A country's secrets just changed hands over a pastrami sandwich. And it was a good sandwich. The CIA recruits sources. The next agency builds something larger. NSA, National Security Agency. Your badge gets checked before the gate, at the entrance, and again before you reach your floor. You stopped counting the cameras on your third day because you work at Fort Meade, Maryland. NSA signals intelligence at a scale that requires its own power grid. The agency collects massive volumes of data daily, on the order of billions of records per day. But your job is to find the meaningful signal inside that, like trying to find an 8-leaf clover. You are a targeting analyst, not a hacker, not a linguist, though you have too. Your job is to understand communication patterns well enough to find the one phone call or message in a billion that means something. You came here through a federal hiring pipeline. The security clearance process took 14 months. The polygraph is what most people remember: 3 sessions. Questions that seem random until you realize they're not. Your current target set is a network spread across 7 countries. You work with a team of 6. You share intelligence with partners, GCHQ, CSE, ASD, through protocols built over decades. It's called the 5 Eyes arrangement. It works because everyone gives something and everyone gets something. This morning, there's a new signal, a communication pattern that doesn't match anything in the database. You spend 4 hours building a hypothesis. You write it up. You send it to 3 other analysts for peer review. By the end, the hypothesis is either held or collapsed. Either way, you start again tomorrow. The data doesn't stop, and you don't either. NSA finds the signal, and another agency sits across from the person sending it and takes years to understand what it all means. One of those agencies? MI6, Secret Intelligence Service. The file on your desk is marked with a classification level that doesn't appear on any public document. You are an SIS officer, MI6, in the language everyone uses except MI6 itself. To get here, you were quietly scouted in university and passed a series of aptitude tests before you even realized what it would lead to. The work is usually slower than people imagine. Relationships take years. Trust takes longer. You were running 2 agents simultaneously, one in Eastern Europe, one in Southeast Asia. And most of your week is correspondence, analysis, and the careful management of people who are risking their lives based partly on their faith in you personally. That weight doesn't go away. You learn to carry the burden without showing it. Tonight, the Eastern European asset has passed new material. You read it twice, assess it, grade it for reliability. The intelligence is good, specific, verifiable against 3 other sources. You write the assessment in the careful, formal language the service uses for everything. Somewhere in Whitehall, a committee will read what you wrote and make a decision you'll never be told about. That's how it works. You provide clarity, others act on it. You close the file. Tomorrow there's another meeting, another relationship to tend, another door to keep open just in case. MI6 operates in the open, officially an acknowledged service. The next agency does not have that luxury. It operates as if it doesn't exist in countries that would prefer it didn't. Mossad. You have a passport from a country you've never lived in. The name on it isn't yours. The profession listed, import logistics, is real enough to survive a Google search. Because you are a Mossad Katza, a case officer operating under deep cover in a country that would arrest you on sight if it knew who you actually worked for. Mossad selection starts before you even apply. Recruiters watch. Universities, military units, language programs. They're looking for something specific. Not just intelligence, but a quality that's harder to name. Someone who can fully assume a cover identity while still holding on to their own moral compass. Your current assignment has been running for 7 months. The target is a weapons smuggling network. Front companies, fake invoices, components moving across 3 borders that nobody is supposed to notice. Your job is to map it completely before anyone touches it. You live in a furnished apartment. You go to the same gym. You eat at the same 3 restaurants. You are building a pattern of life so ordinary that nobody who looks thinks you are anybody. This morning, a new name surfaced in the network, someone you haven't seen before. You spent 4 hours cross-referencing travel records, business registrations, social media metadata. By afternoon, you have a partial profile. You encrypt the report and send it through secret channels. You don't know what happens after that. That's not your job. Your part is the picture. Theirs is the frame. Mossad maps the network from the outside. The next unit finds it from the inside. And they're still in high school when they start. Unit 8200, Israel Defense Forces. You are 19 years old and you hold one of the highest security clearances in the military. Your team is 8 people. Average age, 21. Because Unit 8200 is Israel's Signals Intelligence Directorate, the largest single unit in the IDF. Alumni have founded companies worth hundreds of billions, but right now, you are not thinking about that. Right now, you are staring at a data stream that shouldn't exist. You were drafted at 18 while still in school. The screening tests weren't physical, they were mathematical, linguistic, and spatial. The kind of problems where the answer isn't wrong or right. It's whether you can find a pattern nobody told you to look for. The highest level of pattern recognition. Ranks aren't a formality in this unit. You call your commanding officer by his first name, and the culture is flat in a way that would confuse most militaries. The anomaly you've just found in the data stream is subtle. Traffic is routed in a way that looks like noise until you map it across 72 hours. Then it looks like something else entirely. You flag it, you write the brief, you hand it up the chain. You go back to the screen. 3 weeks later, something in the news makes you think your brief had something to do with it. You'll never be told, of course. But for a 19-year-old, that's a strange kind of power. 8200 finds the intelligence through signals. The next agency builds it the old way, slowly and personally, perhaps over dinner. DGSE, Director General for External Security. The French don't talk about their intelligence service the way Americans talk about the CIA. There are no movies, no mythology. That's deliberate. You are a DGSE officer, Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure, France's foreign intelligence arm, operating out of the Boulevard Mortier headquarters in Paris that insiders call the swimming pool for a reason nobody fully agrees on. How French. You came through a competitive examination process, Sciences Po, a military commission. It was an application process that took the better part of a year. The DGSE values a specific kind of mind, analytical, multilingual, comfortable with ambiguity, and this is the part they don't say aloud, willing to operate in zones where the rules are unclear. France has interests that don't always align with its allies. That's not a secret. Your current posting is in West Africa, a region where French intelligence has operated for decades through networks that predate most of the governments currently in power. You understand the history. You understand why that history makes some people in this region deeply suspicious of you before you've said a word. You work with that, not against it. The contact you're meeting tonight has information about a political situation developing 2 countries over. You have been building this relationship for 8 months. Tonight, finally, he has something worth the time. You listen for 2 hours. You ask only 4 questions. You thank him genuinely. On the drive back, you dictate your notes. The report will be in Paris by morning. France will decide what to do with it. That's not your part. Your part was the listening, the cultivating. Without you, nothing would get done. The DGSE listens in the shadows of its allies. The next agency watches its own people and considers that the more important job. FSB, Federal Security Service. You were KGB once. That's not quite right. You're too young, but the institution was, and you feel it. The FSB is the modern successor to many of the Soviet KGB's domestic security operations, counterintelligence and internal security. The organization that watches Russia watch itself. You joined at 24 after military service and a law degree. The interview process lasted 8 months. Your current department handles foreign agents and their Russian contacts. You don't chase spies dramatically. You build cases, slowly, sometimes over years. You map networks, identify patterns, wait for the moment when the picture is complete enough to act. This week's operation involves a mid-level official in a ministry you can't name in this sentence. The surveillance has been running for 4 months, phone intercepts, physical coverage, 3 confidential informants who don't know about each other. Your picture is nearly complete. You review the surveillance log from yesterday, 14 pages. You flag 2 entries. You write a summary that will travel upward through a chain of people you've mostly never met. The FSB does not announce its successes. It rarely needs to. The effect is the same whether or not anyone knows. People become careful. People become quiet. People no longer exist. That's the goal. No loud arrests, quiet. Meanwhile, the next agency makes things happen abroad and has no interest in being quiet about it. GRU, Main Directorate. GRU, Russian Military Intelligence, operates differently from the FSB. The FSB is domestic, bureaucratic, and institutional. The GRU is external, aggressive, and run by people who came up through special forces and military intelligence units where patience was not considered a virtue. They prioritize direct impact over subtlety, the only one on this list. And you, well, you were not supposed to exist in this country. You were Spetsnaz before this. 2 deployments. Selection for GRU involved another layer of screening on top of that. Psychological evaluations, language testing, a long assessment of how you perform under conditions designed to be ambiguous. Your current operation is what GRU calls active measures, influence work. You are not here to collect intelligence. You are here to make something happen. Maybe a political relationship needs to become less complicated, a business deal disrupted, a public figure embarrassed at a useful moment. It is less elegant than espionage, more direct. You like that. You have 3 local contacts, a communications protocol, and a task that came to you through channels with no names attached to them. You don't ask about the strategy because that's up to you. Your job is to execute the task. In 2 weeks, you'll be in a different city with a different name anyway. The GRU doesn't get plaques for covert missions, it simply leaves results. It disrupts from the outside and moves on. However, the next agency has been playing the same game in the same region for 50 years and has no intention of moving on. ISI, Inter-Services Intelligence. The room has no windows. That's standard. You are an ISI officer, Directorate S, which handles external operations and the relationships that Pakistan's security establishment has cultivated across decades in Afghanistan and beyond. It is one of the most influential intelligence services in South Asia. Many powers wish they could know what the ISI knows, but few actually do. You came through the military. Most do. ISI draws from the Army's officer corps, rotates people through, sends them back. The institution runs on that continuity. Officers who've known each other for decades, who understand the unspoken logic of the organization without needing it explained. The meeting this afternoon involves a contact you've been managing for 3 years. The relationship predates your posting. You inherited it with the job, along with the briefing notes from the officer who sat in this chair before you. You sit across from the contact. You ask the questions you've prepared. A few you haven't. He answers. You listen for what he doesn't say. Your report goes up the chain. It becomes an assessment. The assessment becomes a policy decision. That decision will show up as a news story in 6 months, a political shift or a border incident, and you will read it over breakfast and say nothing to anyone. You drive back through the city. People are going to work, buying groceries, arguing about traffic. None of them know what just happened in that room. That gap is the whole job. ISI operates on decades. The next agency operates on generations. MSS, Ministry of State Security. Patience is not a tactic, it's a philosophy. You work for the MSS, China's Ministry of State Security, the civilian intelligence and security apparatus responsible for foreign intelligence, counterintelligence, and a mandate broad enough to encompass almost anything the state decides it needs. The operation you're managing has been running for 4 years. That's not unusual. MSS often employs patient, long-term strategies in its operations. You are not trying to intercept a meeting or surveil a specific target. You are building access across multiple vectors simultaneously. Your approach is called 1,000 grains of sand. No single source is valuable enough to risk. Instead, many sources, each providing small pieces, none knowing the others exist. The picture assembles itself over years. You manage 11 contacts across 3 countries. Most of them don't think of themselves as sources. They think they're maintaining professional relationships with a Chinese colleague who asks thoughtful questions and is always helpful in return. This week, one of them passed you information about a research project you've been tracking for 18 months. It's a small piece. You log it carefully. You add it to the file. The file is very long now, very detailed. A normal person would not even remember when it started, but you are aware of every comma and full stop. You will not rush to conclusions. The picture will be complete when it's complete, and not a second before. All these agencies make the world go around, shape global politics, and keep their eye on you. The people who act on what they find, the ones who go through the door instead of watching it, that's the Special Ops Unit. Can you imagine what it's like to be in their boots?